Hi, Clifford Lee. Been a member of Kappa Alpha Psi for 52 years and 3 years. I started in 1964, pledging, except fall semester, through Toledo University, Beta Z.
I'm Herman L. Gabriel. I was initiated into this great clan in 1959, May of 1959.
I'm Vern Rush. A 1958 initiate of Gamma Z, which is located at Maryland State College.
I am Lieutenant Colonel Freddie Lee Outley, retired.
Hello everybody. My name is Thomas Valentine. First thing I want to say, since I'm talking to Kappa men, is that I've been a Kappa member of this fraternity for 61 years, and my life began when I crossed the burning sands. I love it, have always loved it, and will till I die. Love Kappa Alpha Psi.
Go. My name is Richard Calvin. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I went to Dillard University in New Orleans. I was made in 1954.
I'm Ollie B. Harris. I'm a native Houstonian. I'm a graduate of Jack Yates High School. Also a graduate of Texas Southern University with a BS in biology with a minor in chemistry. I have an MS in education from Texas Southern. I pledged in Beta Epsilon in September of 1948. During that particular time, C.B. Davis had just crossed the burning sands himself.
One of the great things I remember when I first came into fraternity was one of the alumni brothers at Toledo said, God first, then fraternity. I came to Houston in 1971, became a member of Houston Alumni in 1971, and I had the pleasure of serving under the youngest polemarch ever elected in Houston Alumni as Keeper of Records. That was really early, it was the polemarch, and I served as his Keeper of Records.
Would have been in 1958, but several things happened. And that is probably one of the reasons that a lot of times when my records are crossed up, they don't know if I joined the fraternity in 58 or 59, and thereby lies a little story. We didn't get initiated in December of 58 for several reasons, and then the Grand Chapter found out that they had a group of young men over in Austin at Houston Tillotson College at Mass Houston Tillotson University, and I have the distinct pleasure of being initiated by C. Roger Wilson, the Grand Pole Mark at that time. He came down with the group from the Grand Chapter and found out why we were not initiated. They didn't get there until May of 59. And so we were initiated at that time. And then after Houston Tillotson, I joined the Army and then came on to Texas Southern. I was elected pole mark over at Houston Tillotson. And I came to Texas Southern in '63.
I am currently now a member of Houston Alumni Chapter, the greatest chapter in Kappa. I enjoy all of my members, all my brothers, and I don't know what I would do if I did not have them. I have been vice pole mark, I was pole mark of the chapter, pole mark from 1992 to 1994.
Now, as far as the Kappa, I've been a Kappa for 44 years. 45 years to be truthful, but however the reason I'm saying 44, because 1 year I was not active because I didn't want to vote. And the reason I didn't vote because there were some people, some of my top friends running for pole mark, and I just said to myself, I'm not going to become active, so I can't vote. So I wanted to turn on some people that were good friends of mine. But however, that didn't happen, and so we made it I made it through. However, about 2 months later, I did become active with the chapter.
Well, I was born in Pulaski, Tennessee. People that know about Tennessee and Pulaski know that that's the home of the Ku Klux Klan. But we survived it. Matter of fact, go to bed every night, never locked any doors. I finished from Bridgeforth High School in 1942. Bridgeforth High School was named for my grandfather, James Thomas Bridgeforth. Big time educator. I said big time, he was a hard-working educator. All the, you know, when we name schools, we name them Booker T. Washington, name them after all the great black people that we know. But a lot of little towns name their high school after their favorite educator, their favorite, all the little towns. My grandfather was one that got it, Bridgeforth High School. Finished in 1942, 17 years old. Crossed the burning sands, March 1943. Wasn't quite 18 years old. Went home and then got a job as a pullman, working in a dining car. Got my greetings from Uncle Sam. Went to my mama's house in Tennessee. She called me and said, Junior, you got to get home. Went home, joined the Navy. You had a choice between Navy or Army, so I joined the Navy. In Tullahoma, Tennessee. Went up there, and the only thing that the Navy men were at those days was steward's mates. You know what steward's mate is? They served officers, cleaned up the dining room. That was their job. That's the only job they had, blacks. But that year, they opened the Navy up to allow men to get into other farms, just be a regular Navy man. I'm not going to leave that, but I tell you how impressed the whole black race was over Dory Mellon. You ever heard the story of Dory Mellon?
I thought I was hot stuff in college. I was president of the freshman class, basketball player, and I'm walking around the campus like I'm in charge. So around May, I had some alphas come and ask me to join the fraternity. Had some omegas come and ask me to join the fraternity. Had some sigmas come and ask me to join the fraternity. And didn't feel right. So I'm getting ready to join. And I said, you know, those Kappas haven't asked me. I know they are. Wonder why they're not asking me. So at any rate, they never did ask me. So we had to write letters then. I don't know whether they still do it now. We wrote a letter. I wrote a letter, and then when we go to the first meeting, that's when I see guys. I say, "You going to Kappa?" "Yeah, I didn't know you was going to Kappa." "Yeah, they asked you." "No, they didn't ask me either." "That's where I'm going." I say, "Well, that's good." I said, so we joined Kappa at that time. What we didn't know then was that this was the first, we were the first Strozer Club in a while. Now the irony of it all is this. I didn't have any money, so I had to call my sister, who was a Delta, and she graduated from Southern, and she was teaching in Clinton, Louisiana. So I got on the phone and I said, "Carolyn, I'm going to join the fraternity, and I'm going to need some money to go on." And I told her how much it was, and she never did ask me. She said, "You joined Kappa?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "How'd you know?" She said, "Well, the Kappas at Southern, if they're like the ones that Dillard, I knew you would pick them." So it looked like that halo you're talking about, someone else must have seen that. But at any rate, we joined the fraternity, and here in Houston, and I'm going to cut this short, here in Houston this past May, the brothers that made me and 5 of my brothers who crossed the sands together, we met at the Galleria Marriott for our 2nd and our 50th Kappa anniversary.
God Right, which Gabe mentioned on his segment, was one of my favorite activities, working with Houston Alumni, and we worked with the athletic side of the God Right program that started back then and built it up to what it has become today, which is incorporated many men, young men from around the city.
In the 60s was a good time. I had done some civil rights fighting and wanted to continue my education, so I decided to, the best place to do that was at Houston, was at Texas Southern. And at the time they had an organization of black students that was going pretty strong. And I did not join the organization, but I strongly supported it. And I was doing, over there during the time of the riots and all of that. I was elected poll mark over there at Badolf Salon at Texas Southern, and that was a good time. Springing forward to 1985, I was elected poll mark of Houston Alumni Chapter. And we had a lot of things going on, and so we did a massive remodeling campaign of being elected poll mark of 2 undergraduate chapters and the graduate chapter. And I served on a lot of committees.
But my biggest thrill is being a member of Houston Alumni Chapter and seeing all the great things that we have done around the city, and attending all the conclaves. I attended every conclave from 1989 up until last year, up until the last one, which was 2017.
I'm an Army man. I've stayed affiliated with service for 27.5 years. I was part of the Korean War. I was seriously wounded in Korea. Broken leg, my right leg torn up in the stomach, in the arm. And it was just something that day when it happened. But it was a part of my life and my lifestyle, you might call it, and I lived over it. Now I'm okay, doing much better. By the way, while I was overseas, I had one catastrophe that happened. Lieutenant Fletcher, who was a good friend of mine, we had made a decision. We were going out on maneuvers one day, getting ready to go up on the front line, and we found out that we were walking across a dry body of land with an old river. And while we were there, the weather turned bad. So we had to make a decision to go on back to our headquarters. And so Lieutenant Fletcher says, Fred, you're going to walk back first across that body of land? I said, well, now, whatever you like to do, Lieutenant, I'll do it. I said, I'll take my platoon. I had 44 men under me. I said, he had 44 under him. And so, anyway, it was his decision to walk back across the river first. And when he got halfway across the river, water came down at the mountains and he drowned with all of his men. I looked at that whole situation. And I never will forget that part of my life. And I did get a letter from his sister to write a letter and to tell her just what did happen, and I did tell her. But one of the worst days I had in my life again was when the day I went to the post office, the person in charge, the superintendent, led me around the post office, showing me different things. But the main thing he showed me was the sign said colored, and another sign said white, where I'm supposed to use the bathroom. And you know, I'd been used to blowing up things overseas, so I said, if I could blow up this damn place, I'd blow it up today. And certainly I would have, I believe, with me and everybody else, because I just didn't like it. Was looking at this sign saying colored, another sign saying white, and I just left from overseas, flat on my back, being sick, defending this country, so I got to come in this kind of situation to a government agency. It was tough that day, but I made it for 34 years.
My last tour of duty was in Galveston, Texas, 1944. Went to Galveston, Texas, no, not, excuse me, close to
Pensacola?
Pensacola, Florida, thank you. And it's barren field. and they called it Bloody Baron because all of the little, they had so many crashes there. Well, I was, naturally didn't have any. By that time, you know, we had the Tuskegee Airmen. They were all a few years older than I was. I met a lot of them. But at any rate, they would take us up. See, my job then was to write the navigation, instrument navigation, sort of an instrument navigation agenda for the little officers. And they'd come up to the front, and a lot of us had a chance to fly. And boy, I did my, too bad my hours didn't count. But I enjoyed flying with those officers. And some of them just really took us to heart and learned a lot from me. Daddy Bogart was a great friend of mine, and he knew some people in Jackson State when I got when I got my master's degree in organic chemistry under Dr. Huggins. He got me a job teaching chemistry at Jackson State, Jackson, Mississippi. Stayed there 4 years. But anyway, just a little funny joke. Dr. Huggins I ended up getting Dr. Huggins a grant after I got after he left. After he left Atlanta University and came to Bishop. But to make a long story short, when I first went there, all the guys bought this big, pretty white Kappa sweater with the big diamond on it. And so we walked into Dr. Huggins' class. 2 or 3 of us had taken organic chemistry. He looked at us and he said, my Kappa brothers, that's some beautiful sweaters you have on, but they're not going to help you in here.
A much younger man, well, I worked with the God Right program, Sam Price, one of our deceased brothers, and I operated the God Right program at Hester House, a young man who needed guidance and counseling as well as tutoring. So we'd hold sessions every week at Hester House, and we conducted that program for several years, and it was a very practical program. Somewhere around 1965, I became the vice pole mark for Houston Alumni Chapter. C.B. Davis was the pole mark at that particular time, and during his administration, well, he decided that prior to 1965, well, we did not have a house, and so we were going to restaurants and wherever, homes or wherever we could be received. We'd conduct our meeting and we'd follow it through with a lot of repasts, socializing. But around 1965, CB became knowledgeable of the fact that the property where our Kappa House is located now was available for about $16,500. And so he stopped it. He paid down on it. And with the idea of transferring the note to Kappa Alpha Psi. Well, the transfer did not take place until after he had concluded his term of office. Kappa House was actually acquired from CB during my administration. And there were 3 of us who served as trustees on the note. 2 of the brothers are deceased. One was Theodore Rhodes, the other one was Albert Bateman, and the 3 of us signed on the note with the idea that if the Houston Alumni Chapter faltered, well, then we would have full responsibility for the fiduciary action that would necessarily have to follow. And fortunately, through the years, we've always had brothers who were very supportive, and I think under Brother Manassas McGowan's administration, while he was serving as pole mark, the Kappa House note was paid off, and that was a real feat.
Some of the fond memories back to my days at Beta Epsilon, having going to Finney College. We were Finney College, we pledged to Toledo University, and that's where, of course, our first steps were taken. And that reason we didn't go in December of that year was Toledo was hosting the Grand Conclaves in that year, 65, I think it was, 64, December 64, Toledo. So they waited to 65 before we went over into January in the very cold weather. And that was quite an experience, as we met several brothers from around the states came around. That's where I got to also meet several famous basketball players, you know, Cassie Russell, Jerry Bunton from the University of Michigan. They all came down and helped pledge. Helped pledge at the time. And of course, at the time it wasn't pleasurable meeting these gentlemen, but later on, of course, it became brotherhood, which is what Kappa Alpha Psi is all about.
I served on the auditing team for the Southwest Province. And that was a great experience because you have to deal with a lot of strong men who believe it's their way is the best way. In dealing with figures, you always tell them that in auditing, you go where the figures go. Just trail the figures, and sometimes they don't go to a good place. And some of the brothers were not pleased with the results of the audit. But as the, I've forgotten the name of the chairman of that audit committee, but he always said, it is what it is. The figures are what they are. And sometimes they are not correctly stated in a meeting, but they're always correctly stated on paper. And I have to really applaud the people who did guide right then. But it all started with Brother Baptiste, Brother Clifford Lee, Brother Robert Gatlin, and several of the other brothers who gave a lot of time and money, because a lot of times before we picked these kids up, we had to feed them, and a lot of times we had to give their mama something for, they said it was for babysitting, but maybe it was. But we had a good time, and I really enjoyed it, and being a member of the Guide Right team back then.
I was head of for the Southwestern Province. I was in charge of Kappa Camp, which also ended up being in charge for the Grand Chapter of Kappa Camp for 5 years. I was also what you call a field deputy for the Southwest Province, which included the Texas and Louisiana area. I would have to go around and check all the schools, make sure the students were doing okay, and also had to investigate. The biggest part I liked was investigating. Because during the investigations, you would find out that there were members of other organizations who were jealous of Kappa, and they were mad because the members did not want to join their chapter, so they come up with some phony or fake news about that chapter, about that person.
Now, the main thing to see, I've been married for 51 years. My wife and I had our 50th anniversary about a year and a half ago, and it was very pleasurable. We invited about 400 people, and they all came out with my brothers and friends and church people and neighbors, and we all had a wonderful time with our anniversary.
At any rate, while I was in Atlanta, went to Atlanta University, met Wilhelmina. Wilhelmina and I got our degrees at the same time. She was in social work. She had an opportunity to go to Baltimore to work. I had an opportunity to go to Jackson State, so I told her, I said, well, honey, I guess you're going to leave me and go take your job. And she said, I'm going to go with you.
Take your time.
But that lady's been with me all this time. Then went to Jackson State. You ever heard of Merritt?
Merritt, John Merritt.
Big John Merritt?
Yeah.
Well, when I got there, John Merritt and I were just got to Jackson State. He was the coach, and we got to be big buddies. He was a Kappa man.
Another milestone in my life in Kappa, during the time that I served as Pole Mark, Carl Walker and I went to a national conclave in St. Louis. And we got on the floor and convinced the brothers that they should come to Houston. And sure enough, they took the necessary action. And subsequent to that action that we took on the floor, well, we had I think the one and only national conclave that was held in Houston. It was, I think, Rice Hotel, the Rice Hotel, which is the Rice Hotel Loft downtown now, was our headquarters. But that was another milestone in my Kappa career. I think that Kappa is one of the finest fraternities that exists. Manassas McGowan at one time was the principal of Woodson Middle School. We've had a number of brothers who have achieved in all walks of life. Dr. Lawson, as far as Carl Walker is concerned, Carl Walker was a U.S. attorney, and he would always, whenever we would go to Southwest provincial meetings, well, he would put his attorney tag in the window of the car on the dashboard. And we'd take off and move on down the road. And generally we'd have 4, 5, maybe 6 brothers all in that one car with all our luggage in the trunk. But when we got to the Southwest Provincial, well, we'd have a great time. That is a fact. Back before we had accommodations at Holiday Inn and Howard Johnson, places like that, well, we had to plan ahead to make contacts in the cities where we'd be going in order to acquire housing, and in order to be able to move around the cities, because we actually went to Jackson, Mississippi, which was a kind of funny place, but we never had any problems because we always had the ear of the local brothers, and they knew where we could go and where we couldn't go, and they always gave us good guidance. And they didn't pay too much attention to what the Southern brothers had to say. But when Carl Walker and I got on the floor and began to tell them about the attributes of coming to Houston, well, they became grossly impressed. I like to sit back and watch the young men operate. And I'd say within the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen some guys who have served as chairman who really made some significant contributions to Kappa. And so I would say that the main thing that they can do is to continue to work together in a harmonious way, avoid confrontations, have fun, and yet bring a business-like atmosphere to your meeting, because in the process you hold on to a lot of folk who don't lack a lot of frivolity. I've noticed that we have a lot of brothers who are there for business, and that's neat. I think that's a very positive thing. And on the other hand, I think it's great to have fun, but I'd say reduce the fun in the formal meeting and get along with the program. And I think that would be the most significant thing that we could do to move Kappa forward.
Also was on, with the Grand Chapter, I was also on one of the Laurel Reef Commission. I remember Laurel Reef Commission, and during that time when I was on the Laurel Reef Commission, one of our brothers, Dr. Bobby Wilson, became a Laurel Reef initiate. And I think that was one of the other greatest things I liked about it, making sure that a member like Dr. Wilson, who had tried for 3 different times had applied for Laurel Reef 3 different times, and something had happened where it did not go through, I was able to make sure that he was recognized. Because I said, our brother should be recognized. So that's one of my greatest events that I really enjoy doing, make sure Brother Wilson got his Laurel Reef. But my biggest thrill is being a member of Houston Alumni Chapter.
Kappa, to me, I'm like a lot of the other guys who have reached the age of 80, that it's the best thing that could have happened. And it's certainly the best thing that happened to me. And so it was really a great opportunity for me to associate with guys.
Let's give it a hand.
I was formerly the pole mark of this chapter. And
What year was that?
that was 1973. I was the pole mark. However, I did spend some time prior to that time being a strategist. I've enjoyed being a member of this fraternity, and also it's just wonderful working with these brothers, communicating with them and all the time. Stringfellow, I did mention before, was pushed me on in every way. And he was a part of brotherhood. So much so, and until making things ripe and better, Stringfellow didn't see things as such. But you know, he developed another chapter. But however, and he asked me to come along with him. But I said, brother, you put me here and I'm going to stay here. And I said, this is it. I'm here. I'm going to try to work this thing out. And we worked it out. And I've been here ever since. But it's just been wonderful being a part of the Houston Alumni Chapter. I have my frat brother, I want to say, that pole mark, who I call Mr. James every now and then when he's not doing too well, not doing what the damn school expression people. But I call him Mr. James sometimes when he's not doing too well. However, when he's doing okay, I call him Pole Mark James. Right. It's been very, very nice. Thank you very much.
Brothers, let me go back and refresh your memory. My uncle, who was old enough to be my best friend, my advisor, served as my daddy. I loved him with such a passion, I'd do anything he said. First of all, he put the name of Kappa in my mind. As a matter of fact, every one of his nephews that went to school after, every one of them were Kappa men. That's what I was looking for when I wasn't necessarily looking for that in other people. It's just that when I met Kappa men, other men, there was something about it. I kind of, something, you see, what's the song? There's something within, there's something within a person that you can't understand what it is, but it's a closeness. Closeness you can't get rid of, you can't explain. It's a closeness. Got to Houston, Texas. Joined the Houston Alumni Chapter. This has been the greatest experience of my life. I'm not going to call any names. Some of them are old and dead. Some of them are younger than I. And some of the finest, greatest men I've ever met in my life. In that chapter. And this Stringfellow too. I won't go into that, but I'll just stop for now. Give you a chance to shoot me down.
So, Kappa is just in my blood.
So I'm very proud to be a Kappa man.